Warning, I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised. In my last video, Fauci's guinea pigs, I used a clip from Democracy Now! Featuring Vera Sharav, the founder of Alliance for Human Research Protection. I didn't know she was a Holocaust survivor.
I was a small child, 3.5 years old, when my family was chased out of our home in Romania, and we were herded into a concentration camp. My father soon died of typhus. And my mother and I were left in a camp that was not a death camp. There were many other kinds of camps, essentially where people were left to starve. But with always the fear of being sent to one of the death camps. That was always in the horizon. I was in the camp for about 2 years, and at that point they were supposed to essentially liquidate it, as they were going to do with all the camps, and just annihilate everyone. There was a deal made by which orphan children were allowed to be sent out of the camp if they had someone to sign for them. My mother sent me as an orphan, and I knew I was not exactly an orphan, but this was to save my life.
So thank you to Mauricio for pointing this out. She did like a 30-minute interview about what's going on now and how it parallels with the Holocaust. I'll leave a link.
Adults now are not rebelling against things that are wrong. People are being pushed around, denied normal interaction, and they're just following it like sheep. There's something very wrong. Part of what's wrong is the idea of just following authority without considering, what if they're wrong? What if it's not in my best interest? Why? This is very dangerous that we have so many people, good people, people who think that they're doing the right thing community-wise, but they might be devastating both the community, the economy, of course, has been destroyed, and their health as well. Just following without questioning. It's a very, very dangerous thing to do, to follow. That's what happened in Germany, essentially. All Germans were not evil, but most of them, the vast majority, simply went along. And of course, yes, it was wartime, and we're always being told about war, and now it's a war on a virus. I mean, that kind of thing should not eliminate basic human rights and basic respect for individuals. It starts, and medicine especially, which is so intertwined, and as it was then. When medicine veers away from the Hippocratic Oath, which is an oath that promises to respect the individual right, to do no harm to the individual. If you don't harm the individual, you're not going to harm the community. But if you wipe out the individual's right, their human right, then you're going to harm the community as well, because the community is a bunch of individuals. It's not some other entity.
Yes, it seems that there's been a confusion. Authority have tried to make it confusing as to whether what's good for me, if that can possibly be good for the whole, or if I should be looking out for the whole before myself. And that's become such a source of confusion for many people during national crisis.
If you deny the human individual the right to think and question and assess and make decisions based on their own judgment and experience, then you are creating robots. So it began with the children. It then got expanded to mentally ill adults, and eventually also the nursing homes, the elderly. The Nazis called them worthless eaters. And I shudder that today, under this COVID-19 pandemic, nursing home residents in the United States, in Europe, were the largest percentage of casualties. This did not happen by chance. Yes, people in nursing homes, the elderly with all kinds of ailments, are vulnerable. And everyone was told, because of these vulnerable old people, we must shut down society because we have to protect them. That was an absolute lie. Those people were targeted to die. In New York, our governor and the health commissioner, New York State Health Commissioner, issued an order that older people coming to a hospital should be turned to a nursing home with or without testing, whether they had COVID or not, and disregarding completely that those nursing homes were completely ill-equipped.
She's right about that too. I did a video a while back called Heads of State, I'll leave a link, about governors in states like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and California, all implementing the same policy when it came to nursing homes.
It's a horror. It's the kind of horror that really, there should be accountability. There should be a real investigation how this happened.
So when you're drawing these parallels between what you've seen in history and what you're seeing now, is it offensive to compare Nazism to what's happening in America today?
What's offensive is what's happening in America today.
Damn right.
That's not the point. The point is what was done, what were the policies, what was the rationale. They had a similar rationale, remember. They wanted to get rid of what they called worthless eaters, okay? Their economy was very bad at the time. This was wartime. Everything was going for the war, and civilians didn't have enough to eat as well. I mean, there were shortages and all that. So this was their way of dealing for the folk, forget the individual. What I'm suggesting is that when you eliminate the sanctity of the individual person, you are crossing that line. You're no better.
But now is the time to do what you're told.
Under the Nazi regime, and the same thing happened under the Soviet regime and under the Chinese regime, you have a dictatorship that is running the society with fear. Constant fear.
Sound familiar? Because it does to me.
Public health is government. And that was what happened in Nazi Germany. All of medicine wound up being public health. Once you have medicine in partnership with government, there is no individual care. There's the Hippocratic oath goes out the window. And since you have government behind you, the doctor's not responsible for their actions. They're working together with the state.
And since my video, A Big Lyrus, was deleted off my main channel pretty quickly, I want to use this segment again because I think it goes with it. A big lie is a propaganda technique. The expression was coined by Adolf Hitler when he dictated his 1925 book, Mein Kampf, about the use of a lie so, quote, colossal that no one would believe that someone, quote, could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously. All this was inspired by the principle, which is quite true within itself, that in the big lie, there is always a certain force of credibility, because the broad masses of a nation are always more easily corrupted in the deeper strata of their emotional nature than consciously or voluntarily. And thus, in the primitive simplicity of their minds, they more readily fall victims to the big lie than the small lie, since they themselves often tell small lies in little matters, but would be ashamed to resort to large-scale falsehoods. It would never come into their heads to fabricate colossal untruths, and they would not believe that others could have the impudence to distort the truth so infamously. Even though the facts, which prove this to be so, may be brought clearly to their minds, they will still doubt and waver and will continue to think that there may be some other explanation, for the grossly impudent lie always leaves traces behind it, even after it has been nailed down, a fact which is known to all expert liars in this world, and to all who conspire together in the art of lying. Goebbels' use of the expression, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and/or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent, for the truth is a mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state.
Bill Gates said on camera recently, since he invested in 7 factories for a vaccine that's not yet developed. So he was asked, well, isn't that a lot of waste of money? And he said, what's a few $1 billion when we're talking trillions?
Fucking stoned.
I got